Natasha, what have you unearthed?
James, I mean, just from speaking to people in the last sort of half an hour or so, it doesn't sound like Reform, it doesn't sound like the Tories, it doesn't sound like Robert Jenrick knew that this was coming today, that knew that Kemi Badenoch knew about whatever it was he was up to. And obviously we've not heard from him. Team Jenrick not picking up the phone. Nobody who works for him at the moment is responding to messages. He's not tweeted, he's not put anything out on social media. So I am told, however, that when the Tories spoke to him this morning, he denied it. He protested his innocence.
Really?
So
they must have. I mean, well, I wonder if we come back to that question I asked you. Is there any chance they've got it wrong?
They've got it wrong. I mean, the only thing I can think, if they did...
Be brilliant.
God, that would be crazy. But look, I think there's only two reasons. Come on, James. There's only two reasons why you're meeting with a rival political leader, such as Nigel Farage. Either you're going to defect, or you're trying to do some sort of secret back deal. Let's have a merger of our parties. So obviously that's the only thing that I can think of that would really justify you meeting.
And Farage could have denied it as well. Absolute piffle. I mean, obviously
it's totally not. But you heard from his answer there how much on the back foot he was. I don't think he expected this to be revealed in the way that Kemi Badenoch has tried to steal a march today by sacking Robert Jenrick all out. There's also some discussion. Someone has told me that they had found a resignation speech from Robert Jenrick. Now, that really is... You can't really ask for more proof, can you? He's meeting with Nigel Farage and they've found documents...
Is anybody that stupid? That you'd leave, of all the things you wouldn't leave lying around to be stumbled upon and discovered, surely a resignation speech would be up there with tractor porn.
I mean, maybe it was not labelled, I will resign.
What if it was planted? What if they've fallen for a ruse, a jape, a prank?
Anything's possible in British politics, but, I think that is the irrefutable evidence that Kemi Badenoch has been dished out, whether it's come from someone within her party, is quite clear.
Any chance of a by-election?
With Robert Jenrick? No, of course not.
But he hasn't got the whip. Will he announce? What do you know what I'd do if I was Nigel Farage? I'd say, nah. You're all right, mate. We've had the PR boost. We've got the headlines. We don't actually need you. I stand by everything I said about you when I was calling you names and being rude about you and your period of minister.
If you're going to take Nadine Zahawi, but you're not going to take Robert, is that the line?
Well, I don't know. Would Nadine Zahawi planning to defect have been a very big story?
I think it probably would have reached itself to some newspapers, I think.
Yeah.
One other thing I wanted to share with you, there's been some YouGov research that they've just popped out, obviously, in light of this news. As Robert Jenrick is sacked by Kemi Badenoch, our most recent favourability figures for the former Shadow Justice Secretary show that those intending to vote Reform UK are as likely to have a favourable opinion of Robert Jenrick, so that's 30%, as Conservative supporters. So he is more popular with Reform supporters than he is with Conservative supporters. That shows you all I think you need to know about whether he has made this decision. The question is now, what is Robert Jenrick going to say? And look, I don't see why, how you can't possibly, if you're Robert Jenrick, what do you do now, right? You've really been stumped, and you really have no choice but to walk away if indeed that was what you were doing. I don't think he can protest his innocence if he comes to face the media, to face the cameras.
Well, unless he is innocent and can prove it. But I really resent the fact that I've been rendered interested in what
I think
Robert
you love it.
Jenrick and I do love it. Because
we all love the drama.
Yeah, well, I don't know that the average punter does, but anyway, that's enough of that. I will allow you to interrupt Mystery Hour if anything else happens in the course. That's an incredible honour, Natasha. I hope you are suitably conscious of what that represents. Just for mischief value, if I was Farage, I'd say, nah. You're all right, mate. I don't need you now.
He's already said I'll buy him a pint if I see him today.
Okay. I'm going to play you a little clip of Farage. Do you think this was from August of 2025, as in practically yesterday, or August of 2020, or August of 2015? A little multiple choice for you.
You might have seen pictures of Robert Jenrick turning up outside the Bell Hotel, the migrant hotel in Epping, in Essex. And what he's saying is, I'm on your side. I'm with you, the people. What's going on is a disgrace. Well, when he was immigration minister just a couple of years back, it was very, very different. Here he is boasting that he's going to open more migrant hotels than all the ministers that went before him.
We have procured more hotels very rapidly, and more are coming on board literally every day. More hotels have been coming online almost every month throughout the whole of this year. So Suella Braverman and her predecessor, Priti Patel, were procuring more hotels. What I have done in my short tenure is ramp that up and procure even more.
Yes, that was Robert Jenrick, and under him, as Immigration Minister, we got up to 56,000 people who'd crossed the Channel by boat living in hotels. He put more people in hotels than even this Labour government. And here we are, 3 years later, and he turns up and says, I'm on your side. My advice to you would be to say, this man is a fraud, this man is not to be trusted, and certainly his party aren't either.
We better listen to the Prime Minister reacting to the... Oh, God, I've already lost the will to live. Here's Keir Starmer reacting to the news that Kemi Badenoch has sacked honest Bob Jenrick.
My question is, why did it take so long? Jenrick's been making toxic comments to try and divide our country for months and months and months. And it's only now, when he's on the verge of defecting to reform, that Badenoch gets round to sacking him. So that's weakness on her part. There's a bigger story here, because we're seeing a flood of Tory politicians, ex-politicians, politicians going across to reform because they know that the Tory party is a sinking ship. Equally, from Reform's point of view, you've got Nigel Farage, who is welcoming these failed politicians into his ranks and building his party as a party of the politicians, Tory politicians, who let the country down so badly.
Interesting that Starmer made the point there that I shared with you earlier via Stephen Bush of the Financial Times, that if people are going to start talking a bit about how Kemi Badenoch looks so strong, she doesn't. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I think she looks pretty good today in the style and the delivery of getting rid of Robert Jenrick. But if you stop to think about it, she has absolutely no choice. If they've stumbled across irrefutable evidence that he's planning to defect, of course you're going to fire him. It's beyond a no-brainer. Starmer pointing out that she should have sacked him sooner for the obvious racism, and oddly, the best precedent for that is Enoch Powell. It's Ted Heath, I think. Who just got rid of Enoch Powell because he crossed the line. Badenoch, unfortunately, has presided over a Tory party full of people who now dance along the line, which makes the defections to the party, or at least the party leader that is openly and obviously racist and always has been, more likely to happen, not less likely. It's as if she has... I don't know what the best way of describing it would be. It's as if that cloak of respectability that the Tories used to wear, some of whom to mask their lack of respectability, some of whom because they were respectable. It's as if that's gone. So he won't be the last.
To talk about that and more, Jake Richards joins me, Justice Minister and Labour MP for Rother Valley. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Sheila.
I would have thought it is a ship that your party would rather face in an election at the moment than reform. So why is he kicking the Conservatives so hard?
Well, look, it feels like old times, doesn't it? Another psychodrama at the heart of Conservative chaos. And look, what is clear today is that Robert Jenrick is a man that cannot be trusted and is a complete fraud. And those aren't my words, Sheila. Those are the words of Nigel Farage, who he's trying to go and join. Both Conservatives and Reform have real questions about this sorry saga that's developed this morning. For the Conservatives, Kemi Badenoch has known for weeks, months, that Robert Jenrick was flirting, talking with and looking to defect to Reform. And she did nothing.
You know that for sure, that she knew that he was doing that.
It was an open secret in Westminster. Your journalist will no doubt confirm that when you speak to Natasha shortly. And the fact that she's had to publish this rushed clip from a hotel room in Scotland as Robert Jenrick was ready to announce his defection just shows that she's not in control of her party. As for Reform, well, look, they tell the British public that they are change. But they are letting in failed Conservative politicians with an ego. Conservative politicians that failed the country for 14 years are now central to the Reform project. They cannot be both. They cannot deliver the change that this country needs and also be a backwater for failed Conservative politicians. It's worth noting that Robert Jenrick had the most jobs of any single Conservative MP in the last Tory government. He was Health Minister as the NHS crumbled under the Conservatives. He was Immigration Minister as immigration more than doubled and the boat crisis came to our shores. He is a failed Conservative politician and he's joining a failed Reform party.
So you're echoing in a way what the Prime Minister has said, but I wonder whether that will satisfy voters or impress them much, Jake Richards, because you and the Prime Minister are talking about them as failed politicians. You're talking about the party both in meltdown, but the Conservatives in meltdown, a sinking ship, and psychodramas. Your own party has had its recently historic psychodramas, its recent failures electorally, and many of those people who, quotes, failed electorally are now in the cabinet, are now in the Labour Party. That might not include you as a newer entrant, but
not yet.
Not yet. Yeah, not yet. Give it time. But the point is that I think. I understand why you do it. I understand why you do it for political reasons, for Westminster reasons. But from the voters' perspective, Nigel Farage is the single most attractive politician in the country at the moment when they talk about their Westminster voting intentions. And in comes Keir Starmer saying the Tories are a sinking ship. They might be, but Reform, according to the polls, are a very steady ship indeed. They're your threat, aren't they?
3 things I would say to that. First, look at what this government is doing just today. We've got growth figures in the economy which are much better than those which were forecasted. We have NHS waiting list figures which showed the second biggest drop in 15 years during a winter period, which makes that even more impressive. We're taking action on grok, which is a massive issue for especially women across the country. This government is taking action to begin to change, to make the changes that we need. And at a general election, the public will look at that action and compare it with Reform and look at the increasing prospect of Reform simply being Conservatives with a fake moustache. And then they will worry that the failure that we saw over the 14 years will return under a different guise with Nigel Farage at its head. That is the decision that the British people will face at a general election. Meaningful change, turning the ship around, or gimmicks and failed Conservative politicians having another chance.
It's not evident in the polls yet, and I accept they're just opinion polls at the moment, and the most important poll upcoming is the May elections, so I'm sure we'll talk again before and after those. But on the confidence that the people can have in your party, and I'll come back to the battle royal between the Conservatives and Reform, because it's a different kind of battle. But on the battle royal that your party has to stay in power and to convince the British people that you are a serious party delivering change and improvement. Just this morning, Wes Streeting was on Nick Ferrari's programme. Nick asked him towards the end of the conversation, as a senior member of the government, can you tell us for certain that there will be no U-turn as regards dispensing with jury trials in all but the most grave of cases? And Wes Streeting said, amongst other things, he supports the policy. He expects there not to be a U-turn. He thinks it will go ahead. Even he, a very senior man in the party who may well contend for leadership at some point, didn't say, yes, it will certainly go ahead. He still said, I think, I expect.
Well, Sheila, I've got a lot of time for Wes. He's a friend and a colleague. I'm a minister in the Ministry of Justice, which was responsible for this policy.
Is why I
can give your listeners the absolute guarantee that we'll be bringing forward legislation in the next few weeks with exactly those proposals to make very modest reforms to juries, to put victims at the heart of the criminal justice system. At the moment, victims are waiting years and years and years for justice. And by the way, defendants too are waiting years and years for justice, their lives put on hold. We need to invest in our courts. We're doing that. We need to invest in legal aid rates and the criminal lawyer profession. We're doing that. This is a part of a package of reforms that we'll be bringing forward, which will drag the criminal justice system in the 21st century and make sure victims see justice.
Nigel Farage has said Labour MPs are contacting Reform as well about defecting. Is that an open secret in your circles in Westminster?
Well, that's genuinely the first I've heard of that. Nigel Farage says an awful lot of things.
You don't believe a single Labour MP is...
I don't believe that a single Labour MP. We are absolutely determined to stave off and fight right-wing populism, which aims to divide our country and has no real interest in the meaningful change and delivering that meaningful change which will affect working people's lives. That's the Labour Party. That's why we're fighting for change in government, and that's why we're going to fight to win the next general election.
Thank you very much, Jake Richards, Justice Minister, Labour MP for Rother Valley, for joining us. Natasha Clark is in the studio with me. She's always in the studio with me, which is a joy. LBC's political editor. What did you make of that?
Really interesting hearing from Jake just there. Jake Richards talking about how he believes that nobody from the Labour Party is expected to jump ship, despite what Nigel Farage has just been saying this morning. Obviously, he's right that Nigel Farage does say a lot of things, and we don't know how it's going to play out. There's a lot we don't know this afternoon about exactly how it's going to play out. As you say, we haven't heard from Robert Jenrick yet, and obviously he's facing sort of a little bit of a challenge to sort of figure out what he does next, right? So does he come out and say, yes, I was going to join Reform, or I am going to join Reform, if indeed that was true? Has this all been a big misunderstanding? Lots of people in the Conservative Party who I'm speaking to today are really hopeful that it is just that. However, obviously what the Conservatives are saying is that this is irrefutable evidence that Kemi Badenoch has been handed. There's chat that it was a resignation letter that was found from Robert Jenrick, and that does raise eyebrows, let's be honest, because I think Robert Jenrick is seen in the Conservative Party as a bit of a smart operator. Would he really leave a resignation letter in his office or somewhere around that somebody could potentially find it? That does raise eyebrows. You heard from Nigel Farage earlier today. He was doing a press conference in Scotland, and it's fair to say that he didn't exactly deny that those meetings have been taking place. And if you listen to what he's been saying about Robert Jenrick a few months ago and then a few weeks ago, the difference is pretty stark. He has definitely dialed down his rhetoric. So it's fair to say that he's not denying that they have at least met. And that was, again, one of the bits of evidence. Let's just go back to how this all played out earlier today. Here was Kemi Badenoch breaking the news on social media this morning.
This morning, I removed the Conservative whip from Robert Jenrick after dismissing him from the shadow cabinet. I was very sorry to be presented with clear, irrefutable evidence, not just that he was preparing to defect, but he was planning to do so in the most damaging way possible to the Conservative Party and his shadow cabinet colleagues. Disloyalty and dishonesty undermine trust in politics. When individuals choose to walk away from that effort for personal ambition, it tells you nothing about the Conservative Party and everything you need to know about them.
And Nigel Farage was doing that press conference up in Scotland. Here was how he reacted to the news.
Well, I never reveal private conversations with anybody. And a lot of them realise that for all the talk that Kemi's doing better at PMQs, which is true, for all the talk of a supposed Kemi bounce, I think a lot of them realise that on May the 7th, or should I say May the 8th, the Conservative Party will cease to be a national party. I think that's been in his mind, yes. I've little doubt it's been in his mind. But I mean, have we signed and sealed a deal? No.
So that was him saying basically that he was in talks with Robert Jenrick, but they've not sealed a deal. So potentially this could go a number of ways. And in the last few minutes, Sir Keir Starmer has been giving his reaction as well.
Well, my question is, why did it take so long? Jenrick's been making toxic comments to try and divide our country for months and months and months. And it's only now, when he's on the verge of defecting to Reform, that Badenoch gets round to sacking him. So that's weakness on her part. There's a bigger story here, because we're seeing a flood of Tory politicians, ex-politicians, politicians going across to Reform because they know that the Tory party is a sinking ship.
And Sheila, we have been on this story for a while, and obviously there have been reports of Robert Jenrick and Nigel Farage and what discussions they might have had for a while now. Our own Aggie Chambray asked Nigel Farage back in December if he was in talks with Robert Jenrick. It's fair to say there was not a denial.
And have one or two suggested I should reach out to Jenrick? Yes, they have, because they believe that his conversion from being the Remainer Robert Jenrick to being what he is today is a genuine one. And I don't know, but if it is a genuine one, I'd be more than happy to talk to him.
Now, so it's saying we have asked both Conservatives and Reform members to come on, but neither have said yes yet. I suspect, as you were saying, Natasha, we'll hear from Robert Jenrick himself this afternoon, perhaps. Just a word on why he matters. I mean, we had Nadeem Zahawi earlier on in the week. There have been others. Danny Kruger was a big defection, wasn't he? But this is the biggest, and it's significant because, and tough for Kemi Badenoch because...
Yeah, I mean, this is tough for Kemi Badenoch because it is the most high-profile Tory Tory that could potentially defect was within the Conservative Party shadow cabinet right now.
And stood for the leadership, yeah.
Exactly, and stood, apart from arguably Mel Stride, the shadow chancellor, it is the most senior Conservative, really, that is inside Kemi Badenoch's top team. And actually, if we think back to the leadership contest, which was a year and a bit ago, Kemi Badenoch won with 56% of the vote. Around 95,000 Tories, we understand, took part in that. It was a 73% turnout. But if you think about it, it's obviously, 56% is a pretty, decisive win. But think about all those people that didn't vote for Kemi Badenoch. And that is actually the conversation that many Conservatives are having right now, is what happens next, right? So Kemi Badenoch has taken very strong decisive action. But say Robert Jenrick now goes to reform. Does he bring anyone with him? Will other Conservatives walk? Will this be the end of Kemi Badenoch's leadership in some way if lots of people follow him out the door?
Of the Conservative Party as the main party of the British right. I mean, I'm sure that for some time to come there will be a Conservative Party, but it has been such a successful electoral entity, hasn't it, in our country for 2 centuries now on. It is... it's almost inconceivable that it wouldn't be there in the mix. But Mike, the question I'm asking myself today is, can reform swallow it whole?
Yeah, exactly. And what does it mean for the Reform Party? Do they want to welcome someone like Robert Jenrick in? I think the answer is probably yes. He is a big enough beast to show people the Conservative Party is over, and that's what Nigel Farage wants to say. However, as we've been speaking about before, with Nadeem Zahawi, with other people, when does the anti-establishment party start becoming the establishment? And that is the risk that Reform are taking right now. But equally, they are still doing very well in the polls. But yes, I think there is a question about when the Conservative Party become a defunct force. And at the moment, Kemi Badenoch, she might have picked up a couple of percentage points, but the party are still not doing very well. Still, people aren't really listening to her. So when does she become totally irrelevant? It's a bit like when, before the election, we were talking about when do we start treating the Labour Party as the more prominent party over the Conservatives because we thought they were going to win. When do they become more important? When does it become the Reform Party, who is arguably, topping the polls, doing so much better than the Conservative Party, even though they are the official opposition? So when does that switch happen? And I do think with someone like Robert Jenrick, if indeed he decides to join the Reform Party, people will make that argument that switch has happened, that the Conservatives are now dead and they are absolutely done.
It's interesting how voters regard that, isn't it? Because we've had a text already while Jake Richards was talking to me saying, I'm a Labour Party member and this guy, Jake Richards, is absolutely deluded on the lack of impact Reform are going to have. No one is bothered that old Tories are joining it apart from old Tories.
Yeah, and potentially that's true, but it depends on, who the Reform Party are trying to reach out to, right? Are they trying to shore up their support among former Conservative parties in a sort of way that they're saying, look, you can trust us, we can run the country. Yes, I might be Nigel Farage, but I've got all these people that have got this experience in government, and that's why, you've got nothing to fear by voting Reform, right?
Yeah, and I've spoken to many people on the phones over the last year or two who have said, people who run businesses and the like, who are Tory voters historically, who've said, this is where my Tory vote actually lives now. They regard it as a kind of Tory-esque party.
Yeah, exactly. And there will always be sort of a core vote of Conservatives. And I think we've probably seen that with where Kemi Badenoch's vote has been in the Conservative Party and how much percentage they're getting in the polls in the last year. I think there is that core vote, which will probably never go over to Nigel Farage's party and probably will always vote Conservative, that sort of key core Conservative vote. But absolutely, if you're Nigel Farage, you know what you need to do to win an election. It's an incredibly big hurdle. He's obviously making leaps and bounds, taking council seats, taking mayoralties, but in order to win a general election, that step is even bigger, and you cannot be just of the right or of the left to win an election. Keir Starmer showed that. He moved the party back to the centre, and Nigel Farage might not want to do that with his party. He might want to keep it on the right, but having these people in the party that come in from the Conservative Party naturally make it a bigger political force. They naturally sort of widen the base of support. But you are completely right that there is the risk that alienates those core Reform people that have come over and say, we don't want any of these people. We don't want anybody. We do not want
different.
Those people.
We're
are different.
Insurgent.
We are the insurgent. We are going to do things differently.
It's fascinating.
So it's all playing out.
It's a big gamble, a necessary gamble. It was kind of forced on her, I think.
I don't think she had any choice.
No, she didn't have any choice. But
will it backfire on her?
Yeah,
there is a potential.
And it certainly brought forward the question of the future of Britain's right wing, hasn't it, in our politics. Thanks very much indeed, Natasha. Natasha Clark, LBC's political editor. Your call's coming in already. I think it's about lots of things, this particular story, but at the centre of it for me is can Reform eat the Conservative Party whole?